Have you ever wondered if stress impacts your heart? Hello, my successful and healthy earthlings. Mihaela Raguj here, naturopath and founder of the Natural Health Podcast. In today's episode, you're going to learn exactly how or if stress impacts your heart health. We're going to go through work stress and heart disease, how stress impacts your heart. And after all, I give you 3 tips to improve your heart health. And at the end of this episode, if you stick through, I'm going to give you an opportunity to join a health and success-oriented community by joining the Natural Health newsletter by clicking the link below. Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, where we bring awareness to sustainable health in the business hustle space. The Natural Health Podcast is perfect for the high-performing business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve success and optimal health. It's Mondays with Mihaela. That's right, me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Absolutely love, and appreciate your support. On Mondays, I'm here to provide you with simple, savvy, and sustainable health hacks to optimize your health. Let's get into it. Today's episode is all going to be about stress, in particular work stress, and your heart. I know you may be thinking, what is the link between my heart and what's the link between my heart and work and stress? It doesn't really seem so obvious, but after this episode, you're going to see just how obvious it is. Let's look into and talk about a little bit about work stress and heart disease. You know, I don't know if you've ever had an employee or if you've had a co-worker that you found out has had a heart attack or heart issues, or you yourself may be having heart issues, but no one really makes the link between this and their work or stress. But let's get into it, right? So what they did is they analyzed 13 existing European studies covering nearly 200,000 people and found job strain was linked to 23% of increased risk of heart attacks and deaths from coronary heart disease. That is extraordinary. That is a large amount of numbers. The British Heart Foundation said how people react to work stress was key. Did you hear that? How you react to work stress is key. Job strain is a type of stress. The research team at the University College London said working in any profession could lead to strain, but it was more common in lower skilled workers. So that's another thing there. So this is an interesting fact that they found is when you're working in a lower skilled workers, and this may be because these individuals may be getting a lower pay, so therefore they have to work more hours, more jobs to make up, to put some food on the table for the family and so forth. So Harvard research has uncovered strong links between women's job stress and cardiovascular disease. Finding from the Women's Health Study, a landmark inquiry into disease prevention involving more than 17,000 female health professionals, showed that women whose work is highly stressful have a 40% increased risk of heart disease, including heart attack and the need for coronary artery surgery, compared those with less stressed colleagues. The results, which were presented at an American Heart Association meeting in 2010, which was a while ago, has shown that women who worry about losing their jobs are more likely to have high blood pressure and unhealthy cholesterol levels and to be obese. These findings are especially distressing for the current economic climate. So this study found out that these women who are stressed out are more likely to have heart issues, including a heart attack, increased cholesterol, and they're more likely to be obese. So it's kind of like you're wanting to lose all that weight, but are you losing that stress at work? I remember when I was working in a high stressful job, obesity definitely was around, and it's not something that I thought was linked to my stress. I thought it was just me overeating or something along those lines. But when you understand how the body works, you make that link, right? So the research used a definition of job strain that combined a psychological demand and degree of control. So demand refers to the amount, pace, and difficulty of the work. So an individual who might be a CEO, an owner, a manager, has a high pace, has a high amount of work, and is pretty difficult to do everything for the business. And control means the ability to make work-related decisions or to be creative at work. Think about that. are you creative at work? What type of control do you have at work? And it's interesting because it's kind of like, well, I just get told what I do. There's no time for creativity, but that actually may be increasing your stress, right? And the other thing is also the WHS wasn't the only source of bad news about work stress and heart problems in women. A large 15-year study of nurses in Denmark concluded that the greater the work pressure, the higher the risk for heart disease among women aged 51 and under, right? Not over. And in a study of white-collar workers in Beijing, job strain was associated in women, but not men, with increased thickness of the carotid artery wall, an early sign of cardiovascular disease. So I just thought I'll chuck in a little bit of an introduction of work stress and heart issues. And most of these studies are actually pointing to women and work stress, which is quite interesting. And I found that extraordinary because when we think about heart issues and things like that, we often think about men. But it's interesting to point out the fact that if women have a job that is difficult, there is fast paced, a lot of demand on them, in combination of not having control or being creative of their work, that is what causes that tension and causes that high cholesterol. It causes obesity, the high blood pressure, the artery walls thickening up and so forth, essentially ending up into a heart attack or even the need for coronary artery surgery. That is extreme. I mean, none of us, I don't. I know that you probably don't want to end up on the operating table, someone having open heart surgery or finding out that you had a heart attack, you need to put a bypass in and so forth. No one wants that, okay? But what I do know is I know that your job is stressful. I know that you have a lot of demand on your job, and I know that you want to do the best. And when all that combines in, comes the volcano of stress and comes those heart issues. And these studies are telling us there's so many people, 17,000, 34,000 individuals, 15-year-old study. Like, all these studies are telling us that, if you don't look after yourself now, later on, or even now, you may end up with heart issues. And that is extreme. Heart issues aren't just like a broken thumb or broken finger or something along those lines. This is your heart. Your heart is the thing that pumps all of that blood throughout your body. It is the thing that's keeping you alive. This little heart on in your chest is keeping you alive. And if you can't look after it, then it's not going to look after you. Essentially, that's what it's saying. But let's look into how work stress actually impacts your heart. What actually happens, right? So it's actually a little bit unclear how job strain causes these heart issues. That's what they're saying, right? But stress may aggravate inflammation in coronary arteries, which essentially then leads to blood clots and can trigger a heart attack. It's kind of like an easy explanation of what happens. Stress also can make it harder to practice your little routine thing that you have going on, eating healthy, meditating, breathing. When you're stressed, all that goes out the window. I know, I've been there and I still do that, right? Stress makes it harder for us to practice those heart healthy techniques that we have, that we want to do, such as, eating good, not smoking, not drinking alcohol, having that good sleep, eating well, and so forth. It's hard to tell what proportion of the heart attack is due to the actual stress or what stress actually does to us, opposed to the things that come with stress, that junk food, that smoking, that non-sleep. It's a bit of a mixed combination. It's a mixed bag of things that essentially can end up to heart issues. And for some women, they also may be predisposed genetically or early life experience to react a little bit less effectively to other stresses. And there are some things that, such as, if you have parole disease and things like that, that you may not be able to react as well to stress as you may have in the past or as your co-workers do. Stress at work is associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease, but the mechanism is also unknown. So another study also says this. So it's not just the one that we were reading. It's a few studies are saying it causes it, but we were unsure what actually happens. It remains a little bit unclear. But work stress may affect the heart heart through direct activation of neuroendocrine responses to stresses, or more directly through unhealthy behaviors which increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, such as smoking, lack of exercise, excessive alcohol consumption, like we said. And if you watched one of my previous episodes, I actually talk about how much women have increased their alcohol intake during the lockdown and during everything that's happened in 2020 and 2021. So think about what that may be doing to your heart, okay? So if you're stressed at work, you're drinking a little bit more, having that junk food a little bit more, not sleeping as well, all of that may downward collapse and impact your heart, right? So one of the main axes of the neuroendocrine stress response is the automatic nervous system. So that's the sympathetic nervous system, and reactivating that over and over again and being stressed out over and over again, it impacts your heart rate variability, which has been associated with work stress among men and women across studies. Work stress may affect dysregulation of the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which I always talk about, which is associated with this disturbance of the circadian rhythm of cortisol development, and also metabolic syndrome, which can affect it, which we spoke about earlier, which is the obesity flowing on. So you can see here there are a number of ways that work stress is impacting your heart. There was a significant interaction between age and two reports of work stress. So the analysis is stratified by age group. Among younger participants aged 37 to 49 at phase 2, there was a clear dose of response associated with greater reports of work stress and higher risk of heart disease events. Among older participants, 50 to 60, there was little association between work stress and heart disease. So it's those individuals that are a bit, younger, not the 50, 60-year-olds that are getting that work stress impacting their heart. It's those younger individuals that are getting that impact that's impacting their heart. So accumulation of work stress is a clear risk factor for cardiovascular disease and neuroendocrine stress response, especially among the young working age population. Around 32% of the effects of work stress on cardiovascular heart disease can be explained by the effects of work stress on healthy behaviors, low physical activity, poor diet in particular, and the metabolic syndrome. The association between work stress and heart disease was strong among young employees than 50 years old and those still in employment. So this is a study that came out, and it was quite interesting, and I thought I'll put it out there and I'll talk to you about, just to bring a little bit of awareness about what work stress can do to your heart. And there is a clear link between it, especially for women under the age of 50 who are still employed, who have high jobs, high demand, high paced jobs, and little creativity or control in their work. And you may be thinking, wow, that's me. I'm 30 years old and I fit into that criteria. Does that mean I may be at risk of heart issues? Well, maybe these studies are kind of pointing towards that, because of what actually happens when you're stressed. You're activating that sympathetic nervous system and you're not sleeping well. All those behaviors that go with it, right? You grab that ice cream bucket or, you grab those smokes that you haven't touched for about 20 years, but you're having a stressful deadline that's due tomorrow, and you start smoking and you can't stop. And then you start at something that you didn't want to start, which is smoking. Or you have that one drink just to calm down, relax, and get to sleep. But later on, that is affecting you and you're actually not sleeping. But there you have it. So I made the link between work stress and heart issues right there for you in front of you in 10 or so minutes. But then your question probably is, well, what do I do now? What do I do now, right? So here we go. 3 tips to lower the effects of stress on your heart. And I bet you know what I'm going to talk about. Well, let's have a look, right? The first one I want to talk about is have time away from work. I know you love your job, and especially if it's your own business. I know you love it. It's your baby. It's something that you're watching grow. You've had ups and downs with it and so forth. You have success, failures, and it's your baby. You want to be there for it all the time. But I'm telling you, for your sake, for your health, step away. Have a break. Have a week off every quarter. That equals to 4 weeks off a year. Minimum a week off every quarter. Take a break. take time away for you not to be around your business, because then you're able to reflect and see what's actually happening in your business, but also you're able to reflect on yourself and see how you can get another routine and like circuit break that little routine that you're doing of eating all that junk food and not sleeping and get back into it, right? That's number one. Number two is have social relationships around you. We all know that, having love around you and having a social relationship increases heart health, and it has been proven that loneliness actually impacts you and it impacts your health. So why not, reach your phone, get your phone out, touch base, catch up with that person that you haven't seen for a while. Keep those social relationships going, because they are the ones that are going to get you across that line and heal your heart, okay? Number three, I always put this one in there because it's absolutely vital, and that is sleep. You need to sleep well for your heart to be full, for your heart to be able to do the job it needs to do. Because when we sleep, we're definitely not in a sympathetic nervous system. We're in a parasympathetic. We're resting, right? Well, most of us should be. We're resting. We're getting that good quality sleep, and therefore we are able to wake up the next day and give everything we can at work without it impacting our heart and without it impacting our health overall, right? So, this is why it's key to reduce your job stress and ensure that you're not stressed and that you do look after your heart. It is absolutely key. Please share this episode with anyone that you know needs a bit of heart healing, needs a little bit of a wake-up call because they're just working, just stressed out about their job, and need a bit of a wake-up call to tell them, hey, you're under the age of 50, you're a female, you're working, you're at risk of heart issues. So there you have it. I hope that, you've learned something from this episode. Do what you do best. Love, like, share the Natural Health Podcast. And if you want to know more information about amazing research like this, amazing guest specials, even discounts on products and services, all of this is in the Natural Health newsletter just for you. It's not one of those newsletters that's full of junk and asking you to give. And this newsletter is for me to give back to you, to get this information firsthand in one little newsletter given to you once weekly. Gives you a review of all the episodes and those specials that you want your hands on, because they're nowhere else available, just in the newsletter. Thank you so much for listening to the Natural Health Podcast. And remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health.